Check 1, 2. You know what it is. Episode number 437 is in your phone and on your computer right now. On this episode, we discussed the upcoming 20th anniversary of Common's seminal album, B. We also talked about the whole idea of TDE East, something that Joey Badass has brought up. Also, Mississippi artist and legend David Banner was on the Drink Champs podcast and talked about how we basically gave away hip-hop through streaming. Also, the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA are set, and you know what? The Pacers are in it, and we had to talk about it. Shout out to all the New York podcasters who are rooting for the Knicks, but you know where our loyalty lies. Pacers in 6. You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7th. The brothers are in the building. Starting off with my man Jay Moore. How are you, good sir?
Doing well. You know, just happy to be here. Shout out to all the Toronto fans. You know, they were the team I was rooting for.
Yeah.
Oh, the ones left after the Blues got knocked out, and they got knocked out last night. So, shout out to Toronto. Y'all have had a rough year.
My man Lonegevity. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Hey, man. Good to see you.
You too.
My man DJ Jay Diff, what's happening?
Salutations.
Everything good your way, brother?
Good, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Good. You know I care. All right, man. Let's go ahead and jump into this to the rundown here. So,
Yes, sir.
my favorite and one of my favorite MCs, the homie Common. B's 20th anniversary is coming up.
Your homie.
That's my homie right there.
You don't know him.
I wish I did, low key. I wish I did know Common. But the 20th anniversary of B is coming up, and it will have some new tracks on the re-release. So Common's beloved 2005 album B is seeing a 20th anniversary re-release. Recently, Common used his Spotify page to post the pre-save for the upcoming 20th anniversary edition, which will include 11 new bonus tracks. Now, this, to me, is one of my favorite albums from him. Arguably, it might be between this and Like Water for Chocolate, if I was to just throw two out there.
Mm-hmm.
But do you guys have any expectations for the additional 11 tracks?
No.
None.
Oh, it's a whole nother album's worth of tracks added.
From what I saw in the release, it's going to be 11 additional records.
Because
to me, that's exciting.
If they were that good, we would have heard them by now.
Nah, you can't say that.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
That's how the game is played.
Well, from what era?
You know, if they're
That's the question.
if they're just going to be extended versions, perhaps, or alternate versions, I'd be interested to hear that. But if you're talking about 11 songs that were, for whatever reason, not put onto the album, maybe they didn't make the cut. You know, I can only, like, because sometimes I've been let down by these sort of things before. You know, it was like, oh yeah, it was some unreleased material, and it was like, oh, that's why it wasn't released.
But here's my thing. My rebuttal to that is when you're making a record and you make an entire project, just because a record doesn't make the album doesn't mean the record isn't good.
That's true.
Okay.
Because the record has a certain sound sonically, how it's set up. I know plenty of joints where people have just artists that I've worked with. And I'm like, why didn't you put that on there? I mean, I loved, and this is what they say, I love the record, but it didn't fit what direction I was going in. You see what I'm saying?
No,
Yeah,
I mean, because, you know, there are, if you get those alternative takes, like I would love for them to officially finally put out the studio version of The Food.
There we go.
I would love to get They Say, the one with Consequence on it.
There we go.
That would, but I don't, those wouldn't qualify to me as new records or as unheard material. You know, just like if you bought Doggy Style when it first came out, like, remember the track listing was crazy wrong. There were all these songs listed on there that didn't make the cut or things were out of order. There's a song called The Next Episode. I've been looking for just a CDQ, something decent. That I would love for somehow that to be released, but it's probably tied up in a whole bunch of death row paperwork. Who knows where the master is? I'd love to hear 321 with Snoop Dogg and Crisscross. Most people don't even know that record. You know, that would be dope if, I remember seeing when they were putting out like a Snoop album, of course, this is when he didn't own Death Row or had no control over what came out. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe we'll get those records. We got a bunch of records that I wasn't interested in at all. So if Common is overseeing this, then I have a little bit more hope for it. But once again, B as it stands, I don't really care for anything to be changed or omitted or added. I love that record front to back as it is now.
What you think, Terry?
I think it's more so for the fans, for the most part, to give them something else to go along with a classic album that was released by Common. I kind of echo the fact that sometimes when the albums come out with the extra songs on it, I mean, it's nice to have. It's more so novelty to me for a fan. So, I mean, I think it's cool that they kind of like go back in the volumes like, well, I recorded these at this time. I'm just going to go ahead and release them. Because it could be one of those situations where you have artists like a Prince that has a vault full of songs that you're never going to hear.
True.
You know what I'm saying? What if he decided to, when he was alive, to start breaking those songs down into albums? Would they have been hits, or would they have just been something that a fan would appreciate?
Collection of songs.
Right. Even with Andre 3000. Andre says he has a whole bunch of songs and material recorded that we will never hear. Like that, those type of situations to me kind of hold more weight than actually dropping something on an album that already exists.
And kind of being attached.
I kind of would rather hear, like, I appreciate when they drop a remastered version of the album where they kind of went back and tweaked a couple things to make it sound better because of technology.
Yeah.
But again, B is a classic album that doesn't need to be tampered with. So I'm still going to listen because I rock with Common.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not anything that I'm always like grasping at straws or anything like that, trying to hear or get excited about.
Is this do we know, is this exclusively on like the vinyl? That's the like 11 songs or something like that?
That part I did not see. I can try to look it up.
Because if it's like think of it if like a 4-piece vinyl box set of something where it's like, because B's kind of a short album.
Yeah.
It's only 10 records.
10 records, yeah.
So if there's 11 other records and maybe if it lives on like a piece of vinyl where it's like a collector's edition with some extra songs, I think that's cool.
Does that make it more intriguing for you if that's how they release it?
I mean, I think it's how you present it, right? You could have you can have I don't know how long running time the whole record is, but you could have those 2 records.
Yeah.
B, and then the other 2 records could just be like the bonus ones. So I think that's okay.
There's a lot of classic albums that came out back in the day where if you had a maxi single, you would get a remix of that song, maybe 2 different remixes.
He needs my remix to go.
There you go.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah. That might go. No pun intended, but yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about things like that. Like if they could somehow put them out on like a reissue of the album, I love that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I can dig that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even for all I said, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah,
regardless, got to run that.
I'll probably buy it. So
yeah, I still remember the B tour. I think it was at the Vogue, right?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I think I can't.
I think it was Rhymefest with him.
I think so.
Yeah,
and he does thing where he freestyles, and break dancing and stuff on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good show.
For literally freestyling about people and things he's seeing in the audience, which is always a dope moment.
Next topic, I know Joey Badass. And this is very interesting. I'll read the lean in and then we can kind of discuss, but I'll pose my initial thoughts once we do that. But is TDE or TDE East, I should say, is that a brilliant idea or is it a clout chase?
Then it started making me think about, well, where's our QC? Where's New York City's QC? Why don't we have a quality control record label? Why don't we have a TDE record label? Why don't we have a CMG record label? You get what I'm saying? Who is our guy to go to New York? Is it Fat Joe? Is it Jada? Is it 50? Is it Jay-Z? TDE. Who is the gatekeeper or who is the OG that can start a record label to give you that quality like a TDE, right? If you think about TDE, the reason why Kendrick is as successful as he is because they have built a brand based on quality. The reason why we even paying attention to Reason, even though he removed himself from the label, is because we know he's cut from that TDE cloth that has a certain level of quality. So where is our TDE? Where's our QC? CMG building Glorillaz, Moneybag Yo. They got Yo Gotti doing this sound, doing this thing. Why don't we have a New York person that's doing that?
How do you guys feel about what he said? You have some good points. I know, Terry, you just said you thought he had a good point.
It is a good point because when you talk about the mecca of record labels, imprints, it was a big deal if you got signed to Def Jam at one point in time. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Big deal if you got signed to Cold Chillin' at one point.
And it was like, it wasn't just East Coast rappers. I mean, it started out that way, but then that paved the way for Rockefeller Records. And I think Rockefeller had a similar tone, in my personal opinion, as a TDE. A lot of the artists, I don't think, floated on their own as well as TDE kind of is. But when you talk about Rockefeller, you had, of course, Jay-Z, you had Beans, you had
Cameron at a certain point.
He kind of took the torch for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you had
Kanye.
Freeway.
Yeah.
You had Crease and Neef. Those were like solid contenders that could really rap. You know what I'm saying? And then when you move over to like a Bad Boy, I mean, you have to mention Bad Boy when we're talking about a record label that's putting out quality artists. Their roster was fire.
Mm-hmm.
Although a lot of artists only ended up with one album.
Yeah.
That one album was really good, and then they kind of just dissipated. Whereas TDE is more of a machine that focuses on making sure that every artist is in their bag and doing what they're supposed to do. So yeah, there's not a new version of the record labels that I mentioned. So I think that is a missing piece, and this is something that Joey Badass probably should be trying to do on his own. I mean, I know he's kind of using this as ammo for the rap battles and things of that nature, but him being able to formulate something on the East Coast, this is really his time to shine if he's able to actually tap into the artists there that are making noise, or even has time to do it. Because I don't even know of anybody else on the East Coast. I mean, talk about Dreamville, but that's East Coast adjacent. That's more down south.
Yeah, that
I mean,
wouldn't
it's
count.
close to New York, but it's not considered an East Coast situation.
Right. What you think, Lon?
I feel like it's got to
thoughts?
be. Feel like it's got to be somebody that doesn't make music.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Got to be somebody like Top Dog, or I mean, I know Punch rapped and stuff, but it's got to be somebody whose focus is on primarily facilitating, creating the thing, and doesn't want to be all up, quote unquote, in the
All up in the videos,
You know,
yeah.
like
Singing,
Dancing.
yeah. I think that is what's going to help the creative aspect of it grow. You know what I mean? Now, the interesting thing about a TDE version with Joey and all these artists is like it's not like a one of one, because Joey's established.
Yeah.
A lot of these people that we're talking about are already established to some degree. TDE established the artists.
Yes.
Every single person that's come out of there is established because of that entity.
Yeah.
So it's, maybe a TDE East. I don't really hate the idea, to be honest.
it's clever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hate it. It's kind of like Bad Boy South or whatever, you know, and all, you know, Def Jam South or
when
whatever.
Death Row was going to go Death Row East.
Yeah,
But that was affiliated with Death Row. You know, that was supposed to be what, depending on who you ask, what Suge gave to Tupac when he was trying to leave Death Row. If you're going to do TDE East, then you should. If you were even going to put the out there, you need to holler at Top Dog before you even put the idea out there.
Yeah,
I don't. That seems weird.
But
I think that's what he's kind of. I think it's more of a joke. You know what I'm saying? Because it is going with this battle that's going on with him pretty much going up against everybody on TDE. Well, not everybody, but a few people on TDE other than the person that he wants to go up against. And I think that's why he keeps trying to poke at TDE, because he's wanting that response from Kendrick. But I mean, it's clever, and he's definitely showing out when it comes to what he's doing with this situation.
Still poking the bear with all of this. All this goes into the recent battles that have been released since we last talked. So all this seems to be, to Terry's point, still poking the bear, trying to get the bear to fall out the tree, which is obviously Kendrick. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think a TDE East is necessary.
See, that was going to be my next question, Lone, is would New York even benefit from this based off how everything is, the current landscape?
Look, just the way that the way that I like to do things, and this is maybe just a personal thing. I respect things that are like kind of built from like the ground up. And just like we're talking about the NBA teams and football teams and stuff like that, I have a lot more respect for teams that build and grow within an organization outside of actually like just going out and like finding the talent and bringing them on the roster. I don't think that this is something that you just grab the hot people right now and you stick them on a label and do that. And number one, labels aren't really that relevant for people that are already on. It would be cool to see some actual artist development from a team, from that aspect, because then I think it's actually contributing to the quality of the art.
Yeah.
Long term.
Yeah.
That's the only way. Like, you can't just come in here and grab a couple superstars and then you got no bench.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's why TDE stands out too, because every one of their artists is their own unique artist on their own. They don't sound like each other. Nobody on TDE sounds like the next person. Even when it comes down to the Doechii, and then you have SZA, and then you have Sir.
I think Ray Vaughn, Reason. There was another dude that was on there for a while. I think they all have a similar type of sound.
Cali.
But it's like a specific TDE.
So when
Cali
we talk about the starters, so if we're talking about starters, let's say that Kendrick is still on TDE.
Yeah, Schoolboy.
You talk about
Absol's different. Yeah,
Absol,
for sure. Isaiah Rashad was kind of in that. All the B squad dudes who were all dope. They all kind of had that, like, a little bit of Kendrick, a little bit of TDE, whatever that is. They rapped over the same similar type of beats. Yeah. They did the same kind of stuff with their voices a little bit.
J-Rock sounds.
Yeah.
He's different. I mean, it's a Cali sound.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
For sure. But it's a specific curated Cali sound.
Yeah, and then Schoolboy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I kind of feel like they have the most unique record label as a whole, in my personal opinion. Like, if we're just talking about the starting rosters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dreamville's record label they're unique too, but it's not. I don't think it's the same way as TDE is. Yeah.
Like, it's like there's not even a comparison between the two, and that's not even really a shot at Dreamville.
Not at all.
It's just like TDE is the standard. Period.
It's kind of the point you were making as far as an artist running it versus somebody that's actually into running the business.
Yeah,
and I think that's where they defer.
Yeah,
because we've seen the situation with
Ari Lennox.
Ari Lennox, who doesn't have any ill will towards Dreamville. I mean, she was actually on this last Dreamville festival.
Yeah.
And then soon after that, she kind of announced her departure and that everybody was cool. But that's probably a key factor in why it's not working out the way that she wants it to work out, because an artist is running.
It's like, it makes sense for, like Ninth Wonder is a good example of, now granted, I feel like he kind of does too much. He can do whatever he wants to do, but I'm saying, like, as far as teaching and still producing and still doing all this stuff, like, Ninth would be a good example if he wasn't producing as much, because he's curated Rhapsody's career. He's helped, the Soul Council, influenced a lot of the Soul Council producers, like Soundtrack and stuff like that. But also, like, there are a couple, like Ruben Vincent. Yeah. There's a couple other artists that, GQ for a minute, like, there were a couple artists that I felt like, I forget, what's the name of the label? Jamla, yeah. I feel like Jamla was kind of building that, and I feel like Ninth, but even Ninth, it just didn't have quite the momentum, because I feel like you almost need a dedicated person that's just focused on that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I could be absolutely wrong on this. I do think there's something to be said, though, about somebody who is that is their focus. It's not making music. It's just like, nah, y'all are dope. How do I get y'all and put all my time and energy into that? And, like, there's something to be said about people that are creatives that every once in a while they're like, you know what? I want to get back in my creative bag a little bit.
Yeah.
And that would be hard. And that would be, for a person like Ninth Wonder, it would be hard to turn that off.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just to become the executive.
Yeah.
That would be, for him, that would be very hard to turn that off.
And we see Punch, who is another big dog over at TDE.
Yeah, for sure.
He raps, but he put his own career to the side.
True. He intentionally did that.
Right, intentionally. And then you have Top Son. He doesn't rap at all. He's only in the business to run the business.
Yeah.
That's his focus, is actually continuing to build the momentum and keep TDE as an entertainment company that produces these high quality acts.
Yeah.
So that's their focus. That's what they want to do. And they literally changed the course of what Doechii was doing. Doechii came out, and we've talked about this on the show. He came out in a whole different lane, and they was like, nah, we need to pivot. You need to pretty much just be you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Work for it too.
It absolutely worked.
But I think that's important for almost everything. Like any type of conglomerate in general. Like, I think you're always going to run into problems when when the creative aspect overlaps with the production aspect in general, so.
It is something that's needed. And we've actually had that discussion too, as far as how TDE runs their camp, and actually ARs, and make sure that the artist is, doing what they're supposed to do versus just putting out a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of.
Yeah. Do you guys think the artists that are in New York, the established artists, how do I want to say this, by not setting up or having a equivalent to this that's been established on the East, is that just due to people you think they just don't want to do it, or is it people being honest and saying the climate just doesn't call for it?
I think there are people that want to do it. There's such a blueprint there for all these New York labels. Whether it be whatever you thought about them, the Rockefellers, the Bad Boys, the Murder Incs. There's a lineage of acts and record companies, that had a, for lack of a better term, quality control.
That's fair.
They knew how to keep their artists at the top of the charts and, at the forefront of whatever was going on in the culture at the time. And so I just think right now I don't want to say, because everyone wants to blame, why don't the OGs do this? Why don't they do that? I think it also comes from the fact that Nicki Minaj was signed by somebody from the South.
Yeah.
50 Cent was signed by somebody from
the
West.
She was signed by two people from the South before anybody got her on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, she had other situations. Yeah. I know,
he was with Waka Flocka and them. And Gucci Mane.
Yeah, at first. And her first group, had some affiliation with of all people, Full Force. But that's way back in the, that's before, she was Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
But when you think about that era, the fact that two of the biggest artists to come out of New York in the past, I don't know, now we're talking about 25 to 20 years, were signed by people outside of New York. They let those gems get out of the city. And so now, I don't know if that affected the city in a way that we don't understand. I mean, they've tried to have their movements, but there's always been some foolishness. Remember when we thought Troy Ave was going to be him? Maybe not y'all. No. Maybe not us, but
Troy had a little run.
At one point, it was like, okay, Troy Ave had a little thing going, but then that shooting and all the other stuff with what's his name? I can't even remember. But Taxstone, yeah,
They were giving the keys to the wrong people for a minute.
That too.
It was, you had Tekashi.
Yeah,
that's stupid.
You had Ice Spice as of late.
Yeah. Gotta be careful with them keys.
At one point in time, A Boogie was actually probably leading the race, and that just fizzled all the way out. It's just there hasn't been. It's weird because New York kind of lost their sound for a while, and I think that's what's making Joey stand out a whole lot more. Is because he's actually flexing that New York style like it's supposed to be done. And it's making people excited about the situation. But you have to find people equally as good as him that not even necessarily just rap in order to create a situation that's going to make sense and be a powerhouse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Joey on that, man. He's definitely awakening some energy in the situation and hopefully the city that's needed because, again, nobody from New York City has really been putting on. You got Buffalo. They've been putting on, but nobody from New York City has been holding down hip hop the way that somebody that started it is supposed to.
That's fair.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I didn't think. Yeah, it's not been the five boroughs. At one point, everyone was looking to Buffalo, which is crazy. Just because, has anybody other than Rick James come out of Buffalo before? Somebody.
Maybe I'm missing some.
Yeah, somebody gonna get me to line. Say I'm
lying. Somebody gonna line you up in the.
Yeah, the OGs they've still been dropping stuff, but when we talk about a new fleet of people, when you think of the West Coast, when you think of down south, even the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? It seems like there's constantly somebody coming through the ranks and trying to make noise with the people that are actually doing something versus having a sound that's not unique to your soil, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So
no, I feel you on that 100%. It's been a long time.
It has.
For someone to be deemed elite, if you will, or upper echelon. So it's always we always relying on the OGs at this point. Plus, everything is still in the South. So, hey, it's still down there.
And then
out west. I say out west too.
Yeah, and then regardless of how well Joey is or how good he's doing right now, a lot of his energy and his popularity is from power. There's a lot of people that didn't know or aren't familiar with him being a rapper. They didn't hear 1990. They're not familiar with how well Joey rapped because he kind of, dipped away for a minute. So this new energy I think that he has and hunger for actually wanting to rap and let people know, hey, I came out in the same era as these other cats. Yeah. And I kind of took a back seat to it for whatever reason. But now he's trying to pretty much cement his name again and flex that New York shit ish. So I'm with it.
All right. I mean, hey, he's good enough to do it. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
So shout out to Joey, man. Either you trolling or might be on to something.
Look, man, as long as like the culture is getting excited about people actually rapping, that's as opposed to just image and gimmicks and
lawsuits.
Yeah, that too.
One thing that I've noticed is that a lot of hip hop media got a major boost around the Drake and Kendrick beef. And that's kind of been bubbling for the last year. And this kind of feels pandering-esque for us to all of a sudden, it's like, oh, now we have an East versus West thing going back and forth. It almost feels like they're just trying to like
start something again.
Just to keep the buzz up of it. And I've noticed a lot of hip hop media outlets, like, again, to Jay's point, I think it's great that we're talking about rapping, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of a scapegoat in a way for media to just be like, oh, here's something we can talk about now. We can talk about this battle. This is an easy thing. It's good for the algorithm. And now we don't have to pay attention to anything else. It's just like the next, I don't know. I don't know exactly. I haven't formulated my thoughts fully on it yet, but I don't know how I feel.
It's a little bit of truth to it, especially for like newer people in this hip hop media space. It definitely feeds them topics or things to talk about and to be fake excited about. Again, I'm saying people that are new to this situation and not people that actually been in this hip hop shit for a while and discuss
I see it from both though. I guess is what I'm thinking. Like I see it from both. And I see like a lot of content being created. You can always kind of see it's like the algorithm, all of a sudden something happens and then all the hip hop
flood.
All the hip hop people are covering the same thing. And in the back of my mind I'm like, can't we have some originality here? Like, can we do something? Like, do we need 900 people covering the same thing? And that's where, like, I kind of feel funny sometimes, like talking about the same stuff that everybody else talks about because that's just how I'm built. I just don't like adding to noise, right?
I can see that.
And it's like, but at the same time, we kind of have to,
right?
Because it's what everybody wants to. So I don't know. It's like this catch-22 type of thing, and I understand why they do it, and I see it, and I don't want to be critical of it, but at the same time, it's like, I want more for the space.
Well, I think, we talked about this probably last year when the whole Kendrick Drake thing was going on. We saw how many just new voices came up specifically so they could make comments and content around this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that we're better, but we were making content way before any of that happened.
Yeah.
And talked about those artists when they weren't talking about each other. And so I think that's where I could see the frustration. I understand what Lone is talking about because it's like, okay, here's something for the people who I don't want to call them lazy, but for who would not pick up on any other things hip hop wise if it weren't for what's going on now. Like, oh, it's another controversial beef. Let's see who somebody might say something about their mama or their record sales. So that's where I can see where the frustration would come from because like there are other things in the culture that we could talk about. But at the same time, it's like, how do we not talk about it? Because this is really what we do.
No, for sure. I think that's the part.
I think that's the part that can be frustrating. This is really what we do and been doing it for years at this point.
And sometimes it feels like people are like stepping on our shoes a little bit, like
because like this is not what they do.
Yeah, I don't know.
They show up for the They're like the people who show up and look at car wrecks.
But at the same time, like, a lot of this isn't even coming from like a selfish type of angle. It's just like wanting more from the space. It's just like wanting people to highlight, to be a little bit more well-rounded and a little bit more creative in the stuff that we all like, that we want other people to like. But like, how do we really force that? And this is something that's been on my mind really the whole year, even back to when we were talking to Justin about something similar to this on the show. You know, it's like, how do we do better? How do we do more? And is this it? Like, is this the meta? Like, is this it now? Is this like rat beef? And then this is how we get people to pay attention to it. We just have to stir up rat beef every 4 months. You know what I mean?
Or it's like the video, one of the video homeworks that we had where they discuss starting something and then somebody else taking your idea and running with it. Does that mean you're supposed to stop doing that?
Right.
Just
for
because
sure.
somebody took,
point.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I mean, this is our lane. This is what we've been doing,
For sure. Yeah.
regardless of how anybody's doing it. I mean, maybe we reinvent the wheel again on some other shit, and you know what I'm saying, still do what we're doing, but just adding another element to the flavor that we already have. But I mean, yeah, when especially when you've built your algorithm on YouTube, the same type of things pop up. Even people that you don't follow, it'll be pretty much a overload or oversaturation, so to speak.
That's true as well.
Things.
That's definitely true as well. You know, because it's like, I see it and I see all the same creators come out at the same time, and it's like they only cover the beef stuff. They only cover the stuff they know is going to do good in the algorithm, which on one hand is kind of smart.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, it's kind of like,
that's a good
in this media space, I mean, because this is like new age shit, so we don't need a license to be a NBC, a ABC, a Fox.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can get on here and have our discussions, but it's just more competition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's not a Viacom or a Disney or something that owns everything within the umbrella. It's everybody is their own situation, their own news, and they can do it how they want.
Yeah.
So they're going to get in where they fit in regardless, just to hit and play with that algorithm and not care about shit else.
Yeah, and I don't even, the thing is I don't really even look at it like competition. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't really. We're
not even necessarily competition.
But it's like, I mean, I guess you are technically competing in the algorithm, but like, I don't even really look at it like that. Some of it just feels like pandering sometimes. That's all. And I don't know if it's like good for the ecosystem.
That's why a lot of these media personalities get exposed for that very reason. Because they come in on that tangent and they can't stand on any other leg other than that. Yeah. So I think that kind of is what rubs me the wrong way in our particular media space, because there's people who are nowhere near as good as us, but their numbers say otherwise. Yeah. And it's based off being one tracked on this particular thing. Yeah. Versus somebody that can speak around everything centered around hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I mean, but we've alluded to they're playing the numbers game. It's the algorithm focus. It's not about diversifying. It's not about the versatility. It's literally playing the game to run the numbers up.
And you really, honestly, you have to play the game in some degree.
Yeah, everybody does.
I think about the thing about it is, I think with us is that some of the authenticity is missing.
I would agree.
In a lot of it.
I would agree.
That's my thing, because like, I don't even want to. I'm not even really trying to center us in this conversation, because we're going to do what we do. It's just whatever it is. You know what I mean? But it's just like an observation of like, I noticed that it's almost like there was a little bit of a gap when the Drake and Kendrick stuff fell off, and then the Joey, where there wasn't a lot of stuff coming out. You know, and then Joey and Daylit and Ray Vaughn and, you know, this back and forth CJ Fly started happening, and then these people start emerging from the shadows again.
And it's kind of like, and it's it's everywhere. You can't turn from it. To your point, you can't turn from it.
I don't know how I feel about it, and maybe I shouldn't feel any type of way.
You care, man.
I do care. I do care. Probably too much.
You just care. That's okay.
What was that? I was just watching. Actually, we're gonna talk about it. I think it's the next subject matter because I was watching that David Banner interview, and he's like, this pisses me off because I care.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like
great interview with him.
Anyways,
all right, man. Let's run the partners.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com.
All right, man. Let's get back into the rundown. So, my man David Banner says, "Don't cry now. It's your fault." And this is in relation to artists. So there's a Drink Champs episode where Banner was recently speaking about streaming and how he feels rappers gave away hip hop to the machine. So let's watch this clip and discuss.
Do you think that hip hop still needs a union?
No, because we already gave hip hop away. I told y'all a long time ago that streaming was the dumbest that we ever did in history. Dog, we finally started getting pennies. And then you gonna let these motherfuckers give us fractions? We had just learned, bro, I had just started getting $9 an album, dog.
All right. Understood BDS.
Bro, I didn't need but one more album and I would have been a multi-millionaire off music, dog. And I produced myself. Bro, we gave it to tech motherfuckers who don't even care about music, who ain't even cool, dog. Shout out to all my tech motherfuckers who give me a lot of money. Y'all smart, but you ain't cool. Bro, we gave hip-hop away, so don't bitch about it now. Ain't no need for a union now. We gave it away.
Under the guise of independence. Everybody thinks they're independent right now using these tech companies.
Cool. No, I just want to be cool. That's our problem. I want to be paid, dog. I want to be free, dog. I don't care if you think I'm a geek. Said I was crazy, dog. I told them that was the wrong thing to do. The God Box failed because I wouldn't stream my album, dog. It's some stories I can't tell y'all about. When people from distribution companies call me and say, Banner, I need you to help me fight on this streaming. And then they got cut into the equation, and then they didn't call me no more. You know who you are. I'm not gonna put you on Front Street. You still the homie. They cut the right people in. They cut the right artists in, and they sold y'all out. Y'all motherfuckers want to be cool and make TikTok pictures and shit, and you broke. The reason why your motherfucker always ask me, put out an album for what? I'm grown. I ain't making no fuck. Because I'm gonna make quality music. I ain't spending a $500,000 like I did on the last God Box album, and y'all giving y'all money to these tech companies. That's stupid. And until we as men, we gangster about dumb shit. But you ain't gangster about your fucking money, about your life, about your culture. I don't play about hip hop. That's why I don't do it no more. Cause I care about this shit too much. Bro, I gave my whole life to this shit and this shit was a lie, dog. Y'all gave this shit up to them white folks and them tech companies. Now you butt ass hurt. And you wonder why artists who don't give a make so much motherfucking money. If you was selling dope on the corner, you was getting $10 a bag, and the motherfucker said, hey, come and use my dope and let me give you 0.2% a penny. Would you do that shit? Fuck no, you be like, nigga, I kill you. So why you didn't do that for your music? Just because they give one or two dark-skinned black people that y'all happen to like a few dollars, y'all will sell y'all soul for that shit. That's just some hoe shit.
Now there's a lot to unpack here.
He snapped on that too, by the way.
He absolutely snapped with multiple facts, in my opinion.
He really ain't told not one lie.
I don't think it was nan lie in there. Lon, what did you think about this? What's your take on it? Is Banner right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right.
Is there anything I know it's a lot to consume quickly, but is there anything that stood out to you in terms of certain things that he said? Because that was kind of a long,
I think the only thing that I would disagree with Banner on would be the fact that it's just like a rap and there's nothing we can do.
Oh, in terms of it's already been given away, so we might as well just forget about it.
Yeah, a union idea is still a good idea because I think you can still bounce back from the streaming model. And we're starting to, we've been seeing that. We've been seeing artists move away from the streaming model. More people become more aware of this. You know, what he's speaking on is the frustration of being early.
True.
And I get that because I am often the person that is early on things. And so I understand that. That's true. Yeah. And, you know, like I get it. Like I feel him 100%, but you know what, people are starting to catch up. And I think that's a cool thing. And it comes through talking about this stuff, us talking about it, creators like us talking about this stuff, artists learning that the streaming model is what it is, you know, and learning how to break away from that system that is established. And so, you know, yeah, I would be frustrated if I was him too.
I think what stood out to me is, one, I agree with his sentiments across the board in terms of what he said. Like you said, you might have disagreed with that a little bit, but overall he's spot on, right?
Yeah.
So, but what stood out to me most is how potent it is for what he's saying, but how passionate he is about what he's saying.
Yeah.
You don't see, and we laugh and joke about our running thing about caring. You don't see people get that frustrated and pissed off about something that they actually care about as it relates to music or art. That's years of frustration to your point.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think it's just like the thing that I just brought up before this. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm frustrated at the scope of everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad at anybody in particular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just the idea is frustrating overall. Yeah. And that's what stood out to me is this man is dead serious.
No, for sure.
And he talked about how, you know, you have to, as men, stand up. I know you use that as an example, but men have to stand up and stand up for something as it relates to your art. And the dope idea was hilarious when he did the concept about the $10 versus point. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And I just love how passionate he was about it.
I think for a long time too, the reason why people bought into streaming for so long was because so many people were hopeful of the rates being more equitable.
Oh, people, that the artists receive?
Yeah. People were, the artists were like, yeah, these companies have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And one thing that nobody really factored in is it's capitalism. And they don't care about anything but the bottom dollar. Like that's just what it is. Facts. And so like more people are just becoming more aware of that. You know, is it too far gone? I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is too far gone. Maybe David Banner is right, and maybe it is too far gone. You know, and I think it depends on what lens you look at it from. True. But yeah.
What you think, Jay?
You know, and nothing but the truth here, and this touches on so many things that we have talked about over the past few years.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things where he said, this is where I disagree with him a little bit, but I think the sentiment is there. I think it's very close to what he meant partially, is when he said everybody just wants to be cool. They don't worry about being treated fairly or even getting paid. And I think that is something that kind of echoes something that I've said, is like people would rather be famous than good. Yeah. They'd rather be famous than rich, you know? So that's why it's so easy to say, okay, I'll exploit your metrics and I'll put you on TV and you'll be at the award show and you'll have this and you'll go home to an apartment and a used car. We'll let you rent something, or we'll put you in a house, but at the same time you owe us for that house, so you're going to get out here and sell as much ass as possible so you can get that money back, because you owe us in the long. We'll make you look good.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like when a pimp gives one of his hoes a fur coat and a gold chain and tells her, okay, you need to get out here and sell ass so we can get that money. And I need to see a certain return at the end of the night. I'm going to take back my fur coat and my gold chain. Because that's what you know, you hear about rappers all the time going broke or talking about how they don't have this or don't have that, is because, okay, well, you're not going to make any money actually from your music. Yeah. Okay, once those splits happen and for the hate pennies that they give you for when your song is actually streamed, okay, you're not going to make any money there. All right, we've set you up in a predatory situation to where you might be in a 360. So even if you do sell an $80 t-shirt, you might get $5 or $6 from that. And then even if you find yourself in a place where you can sell hard tickets for people to come see you, we get a part of that. And we may have advanced you money based on that, but we're going to take all the parking money from those people who bought those hard tickets. You know, we got the partnership with Liquid Death. So when somebody pays $12 for a can of water, you see none of that, and it doesn't go into you paying us back any money. So now all we've done, honestly, with all this tech shit, is we've created new ways for artists to be broke.
Yeah, to be exploited. Yep. In the sake of the consumer and ease of access.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it's sold. That's how it's sold.
Yeah, facts.
No, I was just going to say it's crazy because think about it. Not a lot of us have seen the rise, the plateau, and the demise of the music business all in the same life as we have. There's a lot of people that have no idea. Like even if we center focus on hip hop, okay, there was a point in time where hip hop wasn't really making a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? It made it look like they were making a lot of money, but that didn't happen.
Right.
And artists have touched on that. And it got to the point where they actually started to make a lot of money, like in real time, like for real. And then right when that happened, on the tail end or not far away from that, started the streaming situation with who was that? Napster.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Napster.
the pirating.
The pirating.
Yeah.
Which was technology based. So to his point with people don't care less about your music and your interests as far as that's concerned. They care about getting a new technology off and eating good from Silicon Valley. They care less about what your album sounds like. At this point, the music focused only on how much can we put out for this consumer, which then turned into the streaming situation that he's talking about. His example about taking dope from somebody and giving your dope to them, and they giving you pennies, micro pennies on a dollar after you didn't handed your work over, is the best analogy that I've probably ever heard when it comes to music.
And the thing is it's not just music.
No, it's
not. The same thing could be said to us.
Yeah.
We put all of our content on a platform that gives us a fraction of the percentage back only if we meet certain thresholds.
Only. Yeah. It's like you're being penalized. Okay, like we're handing over all of our shit.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we're going to eat off of this regardless. We're going to pay you once it gets to this certain threshold. But you have to get there first. It's kind of like a bad bar deal. You know what I'm saying? Where you didn't set the price too high.
Yeah.
So you never get paid off the bar. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with the music shit and the streaming shit, all of that.
Yeah.
It kind of goes hand in hand. If you set it, and it's like we're not even setting these. Even with a bar deal, that's something you negotiated at least.
Yeah.
With this situation, you're not negotiating shit. It's like, this is what it is. You have to get here. If you don't get here, we're going to continue to eat, work harder, and maybe you'll get a piece of this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's almost, I can't even add much more to what he said because it's like he hit everything that could be said about the state of this music business. And for him to even talk about his experience with dropping the God box. So I remember we talked about that. Yeah. And how that was a big deal. He sold a whole package.
The packaging was amazing.
Amazing
for that project.
That he spent $500,000 on that situation and it wasn't successful. And this is coming from somebody that came up in the game and was at a point where rappers were eating when he came out. You know what I'm saying? He said he sold his first, he finally got to getting $9 an album. And it's like the carpet got yanked from a bun ring.
But again, he was early.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't the earliest adopter of it, but he was one of the early adopters of it. And that's what happens sometimes. Like he's going up against a machine. You know, like even our early episodes, we were like, this is not the smart choice right now. Like without infrastructure set up to encapsulate and grab those people, like you have to build those super fans and be able to grab them and be able to sell directly to them. You know, like we can't just take all of our stuff off of YouTube and be like, yo, come listen to us on Patreon. No, not even Patreon, because that's owned by somebody. We can't say from our own website. You know, like we can't do that. Or Patreon, but would be the thing. But we can't even do that because we're not going to get people. We're not going to, it's the whole exposure thing as well. So it's like you have to play that game a little bit.
But the only way to really make it is to partner with these people that are stealing from you.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I'm saying? Because like when we talk about even the streamers or podcasts that are really getting it, the platform is paying them. They got a deal on top of whatever streams, you know what I'm saying?
Twitch, the Twitch streamers used to. They've kind of deaded all that stuff in a long time.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, I mean, it's been going on, and it's crazy because I actually was listening to Chuck D and Curtis Blount were on the Breakfast Club.
Great interview,
and they were actually discussing the union, Hip Hop Alliance. The situation that stuck out to me is Chuck D said that hip hop came into the game as a covert. Like, you know what I'm saying? We were covert as far as implanting and being part of the culture, and even thank Spike Lee for being the person that played Fight the Power over and over and over in that movie to make that more successful than it might have been without that situation. But it's so crazy that it went from covert to corporate. It's like none of that rah-rah strong energy that we felt when we first heard and listened and knew about hip hop. I mean, it's still there, but it's not there to benefit the artist. It's like it's totally gone. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, good point, as discouraged as I don't want to say he sounds discouraged, but in a way is like, I got burnt by this whole situation, But on the other side, we see somebody like Killer Mike be able to do what he wants to do. Now, mind you, his records are on a streaming service, but I know a lot. He cultivated those super fans that went out and bought the vinyl too. Facts. And he's able to sell hard tickets on his, a lot of times on his own. Now, mind you, he has also the fame that comes from Run the Jewels. I'm not going to discount that either. He has a long track record of putting out the records he wants to put out without thinking about, is this going to sound good in a Doritos commercial? And, will I be able to do this, that, and the third? There's basically no selling of ass when we talk about, Run the Jewels or
at all
Killer Mike as a solo artist. But the thing is, like, when you tell someone, hey, if you do this yourself, you say you have this incredible piece of work and you want to sell 10,000 CDs and that'll net you like $100,000. And he was like, okay, well, I want my stuff to be on streaming so everybody can hear it. And it's going to take 4 billion people for you to make that same $100,000 to listen to your records. Like I said, I'm making that number up. It's not that far off. And so when you're talking, but someone would say, I want everyone to hear it. I'd rather be famous than get that $10,000 from my super fans or people I can sell to at my shows. It's a weird choice that people have made, but now it is the norm.
Yeah, I think people have been forced to make it too. I think that's the other piece of this that, like, I understand David, and I agree with what he's saying, his frustration, but like, it's not like there's many other choices for many people. It's like you have to play the game. Like you have to, because if you don't, like, not everybody is a David Banner who could be a multimillionaire if from selling records. Like he was from that era. He's been around for a very long time.
He was homeless
when he started out.
Yeah.
But he's cultivated and built something very special.
Yes.
And he's still the top 0.0% of everything. You know what I mean? So
he still exists in what when they talk about in the 1%. He still exists in the 1% of artists who can actually eat from their art. Whether it be the scores he's done, for other movies. Like David Banner's company worked on the remake to Footloose. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He is very diversified.
Oh, he getting to that.
To my point. So I don't get straight here though, but it is like he's putting a lot of onus on the artists.
Yep.
And less on the systems that exist. And I understand that also at the same time, like, people are a part of the system and uphold and push them, but it's a highly exploitative thing that people are a part of too. So I feel like I mean, I get where he's saying, but I still put a little bit more onus. But then again, who's going to take responsibility? They're not going to take responsibility for it. So it needs to be the people that are going to have to do, which is what he's saying. But like, that's not going to happen. So
do we start to put the onus on the consumer who is just now they've been conditioned to think that art, but specifically music in this case, is just not something you spend money on.
That's a
unless you're
now.
buying tickets to Cowboy Carter.
It's a wrap now, man. As far as a consumer is concerned, they could care less as long as they're being entertained.
Yeah.
So like the artist has to figure out another way to actually make their money. And again, that you just brought up Cowboy Carter. The tours is where they make the money, but the product has to be good enough for you to tour to actually make that money. Because you hear about a lot of concerts or artists wanting to go on tour and end up having to cancel the tour because the tickets aren't selling.
Yep.
So they don't have any money or anything on the back end or any incentive to keep going on because they're like, we have to spend this much money to go on tour to all these cities and we're not seeing an ROI based off these tickets that are being sold. So we're just going to have to scrap that idea and refund everybody. Or they got to scale it back down. But I mean, that's the only guaranteed way that they're actually going to eat off of their product. Whereas back in the day, they were getting money off the record sales and going on tour and selling merch.
But I guess what I would say to that is that works for like a Beyonce, but like the thing is like talent doesn't matter. So it's not about having a good product. It's about being able to sell your product in the avenues where people consume. And if the way that people consume are these platforms, you're kind of forced into being a part of these platforms. And it's like this wicked cycle where unless you are one of these anomalies like a Jay-Z or a Beyonce or a Killer Mike or somebody who has such a large fan base that they can bypass it, or somebody who has spent a lot of time building that grassroots thing, it's completely unavoidable.
Yeah.
Like you can't be like Mick Jenkins has talked about, he recently went direct to consumer.
Yeah.
He's a big independent artist, but he's not a big artist.
No.
So like he's making a very big I don't want to say he's betting on himself a lot.
Risk?
No, it's not a risk.
Not a risk.
I think he's betting on himself.
Okay.
Like he's making a very big bet on himself, which I think is smart for him to do because I think he has that. But it's really going against the grain, and there's no real solution for people except for like I think the artists have to just start removing themselves from these platforms or demand something that is equitable. Because the consumers are not going to change. To your point, Terry, the consumers are not going to change. Like even you were mentioning earlier in the show, Jay, about how, like I would have liked to listen to Doechie's record, but it's not on any streaming platform. Mm-hmm. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what. But that's what I mean, though. Like it's probably on her YouTube. She probably collects monetization off her YouTube, as opposed to. And granted, it's still a YouTube, yeah. but like it's different when you have your music distributed through a distribution platform to YouTube and YouTube Music, as opposed to you uploading it and you collecting monetization. There's a little bit of a difference there,
right?
Not a ton, but there is. But you at least have a little bit of control there. But
what happens? What I was saying as far as what happens too, they can still eat off of touring and doing their shows, and it's obviously in a much smaller arena, and the tickets cost a lot less. But what it does, it turns them into they have to be an artist 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. They can't duck off like a Kendrick can be like, I'm not doing an album for another 5 to 10 years. You can be Andre 3000 decide I'm gonna play flutes and pianos and not do anything because he's already hit that threshold to where his artistry pays for itself regardless of what he does. Whereas a lot of the artists that we may be fans of are very good artists, but they haven't hit that threshold to where their artistry is gaining the popular vote. And I think that's why people aspire to be whatever type music they do and add the pop to it in order to gain that freedom. Because otherwise you're constantly having to feed the machine and stay out on the road. These people got families and all kind of stuff. They can't just go out on tour for the summer and be done. They got to tour all year.
Yeah, but I think another piece to this too is like, and this is in reference to, I'd be curious to talk to some people that tour heavily, like a Mega Ran or somebody,
or Talib Kweli,
or Open Mike Eagle, who just did some shows and
maybe
stuff.
Talib Kweli.
But I was just referring people that I know. I'd be interested in having a conversation with them about this, like
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Like, is the money the same now as it was 10 years ago and 20 years ago? Because Rapper Poop recently came out and said that because of the Live Nation stuff and the way that these venues are operating, the money's not the same in that either. So it's like, there are a lot of hands in artists' pockets right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the thing about, they're giving people loans against their ticket sales. And, even though they take all the money for parking in $12 cans of water.
Yeah,
man.
I saw that in an
It's
interview
crazy
somewhere.
out there, bro.
It's very crazy. It makes me think about the conversation we had, which was very similar to this, where I brought up at one point in time, there's just going to be a company where artists go to, and you give them all of your shit, and they pay you either a salary or
percentage,
a percentage or a monthly whatever. You know what I'm saying? You just work in this place, you're giving us all the music, and we're cutting you. You know what I'm saying? Your pay. This is all ours. You work for us. We're going to release it, but here's your stipend, and we keep the rest of it. It's about to be Hunger Games out here.
Yeah.
Scary, bro.
Yeah.
Scary hours. Well, shout out to David Banner, man, for being passionate about this.
I got to check, even though it's hard for me
Very
to
good
watch
interview.
Drink Champs, I'm going to have to check out the rest of this interview.
This is when I was trying to find this clip, what I will say is that right before this was another really good section.
Mhm.
Like he was, this is
It's a very good interview.
I've only watched like 20 minutes of it, but it's really good.
And David Banner is powerful enough to not get cut off by you know what I'm saying? Like he actually can get his thoughts out. Yeah, he gets his thoughts out very well on this one. So I would suggest it for sure.
His the politics segment where they were like, yeah, we need hip hop to run for politician and stuff like that, and he was like, why would you want me to do that? There's no money in it.
He did say that.
It was like no.
Hey, he was dead serious. He's like for what?
He's like, I'm not talking about you specifically, but
I mean, he's seen real money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't necessarily appeal to him. I mean, we even had the discussion about what artists would we like to see as politicians, and he was one of them.
Yeah,
facts.
Yeah, but you're not trying to be no alderman, city councilman.
He's seen real money.
He's like, let me be the one that funds. Let me do that.
Get behind somebody. Yeah,
that's where the real power is, anyway.
Facts. NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see us anywhere, please give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe, hit any bell that you see for notifications. Also, remember that our Patreon has our exclusive, unedited episodes. We really appreciate the support, and we'll see y'all next week. Go Pacers. Peace.
3
in a minute.